I'm Nicola Tallant, and you're listening to Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs, and the sins of the underworld. We're Ireland's top podcast for 2025, and now we've got a new website. So if you want to learn more about crime and criminals, if you want stories, extras, and podcast subscriber specials, go to www.crimeworld.com.
We're back, still without Nicola.
Yes.
But you know what I did get told, actually, and this is serious, that because I'm sitting on this side of the desk, the best side of my face shows. And that somebody said to me, if you were a woman, you would know that you'd have a best side to your face.
Yeah, but you say you have both sides of your face are good.
well, I think both sides are pretty impressive, all right.
Yeah.
No doubt about that.
Yeah.
But apparently...
Oh, really? Yeah. I don't know. I don't like
you
either.
You don't have a best side to your face at all?
I don't know. Not anytime I've seen Crime World, I'm like, Jesus, is that what I look like? It's best to say nothing. Yeah, no, I did. I heard you describe yourself as a one-man podcast team earlier. So I want.
But I said there are some people living off my glory, like yours, and I pointed at you. Didn't I say that?
Yeah.
Some sort of vulture.
Oh, you can have your glory. I'll go home early and you can have your glory.
Well, I did give you a shout out. I didn't mention you as one of the people feeding off my glory. But I mean, yeah, I'm certainly Niall Donald fatigue might be creeping in at some point on the podcast. Chloe,
for me, or
well, I know you've got that in a real way, but with the public.
I'm the first case of that.
The first case. Well, hopefully
you're doing a great job now. I think Nicola. I'd say Nicola will really tell you that once she comes back.
You know, Nicola, she's very emotive. But so it's been another busy week on crimeworld.com for sure. Sometimes there are different types of stories in December, but I suppose the big story, and which we've gone into in separate podcasts, so we will only just mention it really, has been the absolutely shocking death of a 4-year-old boy and his great aunt. Absolutely, you can't even put words to how horrible the outcome of that sort of crime has been in this case.
Yeah.
But I suppose we had that occurs in the same week that a case involving another child, Daniel Arabos, has been upgraded to homicide. Now, it's a story we spoke about extensively in September when Daniel Arabos, I think it said, would have turned 8 this week. His remains were found in County Dublin. Yeah. He had been... It is believed he died when he was around 4 years old. And then he'd fallen off the radar, effectively. He hadn't been reported dead, obviously, hadn't been reported missing, hadn't come to the awareness of the authorities. But this week, the case has been upgraded to homicide. And, well, tell us about that, I suppose.
Yeah, so the guards put out a statement last night basically saying that today, said the 12th of December, would be his 8th birthday. And they said that they were, as you said, upgrading the case to homicide. They said that what we had already known, but that they confirmed that the remains they did recover after the 2-week search were Daniel's, and that they were investigating all circumstances, but they issued a plea to people and they kind of said, don't assume that you think we'll know this information. Even if you think it's really small, please come forward. So our colleague Conor Fionn had been reporting on the story anyway, and he visited the site where Daniel's remains are found, and with weather and all that recently, it's like a waterlogged site. It's really derelict, and all that's left really is a photo of Daniel and 2 teddies. It's just very poignant that this is his resting place, because obviously he lay there probably for maybe 3 years before the state became aware of it. So
now this is a sort of case that I suppose makes people angry for a start, because nobody wants to think that a child. Well, obviously the police now have upgraded it to homicide, and there's an implicit implication that they suspect that there was unlawful or violent acts may have been a part of his death. But, it makes people, people I think are genuinely shocked when this can happen to a child, and also that it can happen and nobody notices. Absolutely. I mean, that's obviously the hugely unusual case, reason in this case. And obviously he was 4, and we have Tyg Farrell dying as well, who was 4. Yeah. Now, obviously, we know a bit about why Daniel Arabos was found because his mother gave this information about where she said he was buried.
Yeah, so I suppose it came to light because, as you said, they believed that he may have died before his 4th birthday, so he never went to school, or he never would have been subject to, like, you know, the education system.
Yeah.
But that it came to light when earlier this year there was just a standard social welfare check on a children's allowance application, and then they realised that this child hadn't gone to school. Then it was flagged with TUSLA, and then obviously TUSLA had previous interaction when Daniel was a baby with the family, and then the family took Daniel back, so they hadn't had dealings. And then in the course of this, the Gardaí were alerted, and then when they spoke to their mother, originally I think she said that Daniel had gone to family down the country. The Gardaí quickly ascertained that wasn't the case, and then eventually she told them a story about how Daniel died in his sleep, I think, and then
she died. So she said he died of natural causes.
Yeah.
And then they placed them in the bath, her and her then partner, Kieran Duran, who's now living in Brazil, the child's father. I placed him in the bath in an attempt to revive him.
Yeah.
When it happened, they panicked, brought him to this wasteland in County Dublin and buried the body. And obviously she'd given that information, and the dig occurred over a number of weeks. Actually, it took for it to be successful. I think that she hadn't been able to pinpoint an exact location.
No. But the result, there was a couple of different stories told, and the results of one story was that he may have died as a result of an alleged assault, and then that was changed.
Yeah.
And then it was that, you know, he died of natural causes, and that he was in the bath, and that he was buried on the other side of the city, and then they earmarked in on the Donna Bates site.
Yeah.
And it did take, I think, over 2 weeks to find him, and then they found partial remains in the end.
Yeah. Now, obviously, this investigation has been given huge resources. So, if an investigation becomes, for example, a murder investigation, the guards are given extra resources to find that in dissimilar data, missing persons. Now, I believe this investigation has had the full resources, but they've upgraded it to homicide, which is more of an American term. But obviously, homicide is slightly different than a murder investigation. It will cover unlawful deaths of all types, I suppose.
Yeah, it does. And I think this has always been the confusion and difficulty with this case, because there was different versions of the story told. The parents are no longer together, so they split shortly after Daniel's believed to have died. And the father, Kieran Duran, who was originally from the Aran Islands in Galway, he is now in Brazil with a new partner. So I think they are obviously being dealt with separately by Gardaí, and there has been different theories put forward. But I think that always the confusion was, even though there was obviously suspicions around Daniel because he was so young and because it took years for his death to become public knowledge, you know, the results, so no one could say how he died, and we don't know what the post-mortem was. So I suppose you have to keep an open mind in terms of can't, like, you know, a murder investigation is very clearly...
Yeah, and this is a homicide, so that would cover, obviously, manslaughter or other unlawful acts in connection with the death of somebody.
Exactly. So I suppose that's it. They're keeping an open mind because... I suppose homicide will cover manslaughter, which would be accidental death, or, you know, negligence causing death. And there's all different manners of, you know, killing, but unlawful killing, but it's not necessarily intent of murder. No,
and I suppose even the fact that it takes the DNA this long to be identified, you know, you just see the formal processes are different when you're an investigator. Now, to segue into another story where I suppose, again, the legal processes are, you know, complex, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And I know you're fully prepared for this, Eimear, aren't you, to explain the ins and outs of the Spanish legal system?
You told me that we would do the half to you, and then you said, then 20 past 2, you said, oh, you're right. So sometimes I think you try and keep me on my toes.
It's called gaslighting. It's one of my hobbies. But tell us what happened this week, and then I'll clarify it. Go on.
Because you're so great.
Go on.
Yeah, no, so I suppose, this is more of your... Would this be your mastermind subject?
No. Go on.
So anyway, basically we had a story this week about how a Spanish judge has decided there's enough evidence to charge Gerry Hutch, and basically they're asking prosecutors if they want to accuse him of money laundering. We know obviously that he was arrested in Spain last year. Was it last year or earlier this year?
Yeah, last
Such a long year.
Yeah.
And it's obviously different, as you said, because they arrested him and they held him in custody for several weeks, and then eventually he posted bail. He was allowed to come home and to contest the general election, which he almost won a seat in, and at the same time his house in Clontarf was searched. So that's what the way the Spanish do it is: they can arrest someone and they can hold you for a suspect. We know people that are held as suspects for several years, and it's only until they get closer to the investigation being ended and the trial stage that then they decide to charge someone. So
yeah. Now, I was only messing in that.
Did I do okay there?
Did okay, yeah. You did the great trick that I've mastered, which is sounding like you know what you're talking about, right? But it is very complicated, right? Because we have a legal system. It's like a common law legal system.
Yeah.
And you're arrested and then you have to be charged. And once you're charged, you know, you come before the courts and the courts take over the investigation. Now, the Spanish system is very different, and what they're saying here, if you read the headline that's in all the papers, you kind of think, well, Jerry Hutch is now being formally charged.
Yeah.
But it's not even as simple as that. What it is that he's now been moved into the next stage of proceedings, which is called the preliminary proceedings have now ended, and now we're into the summary proceedings.
Okay.
Right. So again, it's still not. It wouldn't be necessarily the equivalent of a charge in Ireland.
No.
So mostly in Spain, you know, the week or two before the case begins, they're formally charged.
Yeah.
But this has gone to the summary proceedings where basically a judge has looked at it and he's asked prosecutors, do you have enough to move to the next stage?
But has he made the based on his expert knowledge, he thinks there is enough evidence?
Well, he thinks there's enough evidence to continue the investigation at the next stage.
Yeah.
So again, it's not even a charge. Now, it's a very different legal system, but I suppose it's something equivalent to a grand jury hearing in America, where in the US, the police arrest you and then at some point they can go for a grand jury hearing, which the grand jury just hear all this evidence. It's not contested at this stage and they can say, well, yeah, there's enough for you to proceed, but it's still not a formal charge as such. So it's still quite a bit away. You would have to say. So it says, you know, the proceedings have been referred to the Public Prosecutor's Office for it to report on whether to proceed or not, whether or not to proceed to trial, and if so, issue a provisional indictment. So you're not even at this provisional indictment stage.
Yeah.
So it is complex, and we've seen in Spain that these things can take a lot of time.
Yeah.
But it is a very different system, and I wouldn't say sometimes the very quick reading of it is that he's at this next stage, and he is at a next stage, but it's still a long way.
Is continuing, yeah.
Like in the meantime, of course, somebody has brought in the Gerry Hutch wrapping paper into our office, haven't they?
Yeah, I actually wrapped a present the other day with it.
Did you? I don't know. So well,
for my friend that listens, Elaine, that listens to the podcast.
You think so? They would have gone for Jerry Christmas wrapping paper instead of Gerry Hutch Happy Christmas.
Does it not say Jerry Christmas?
No, it doesn't.
I thought it did.
But it's as these proceedings go on, and of course he was arrested on suspicion of heading up a criminal gang that's involved in money laundering in Lanzarote.
Yeah.
So it's a very serious allegation, an unproven allegation, admittedly, but a serious one.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, there is this, there's people selling wrapping paper in his head.
There is. I walked by it. I walked by it. His one of the Hutch. He's a Hutch relative, but he's also a Hutch pal, Anthony Fitzgerald. He was sitting on the stall. I know we've written about that. But no, it's in full flow. And I actually looked when I went by, the calendars are gone. Yeah. They're selling out their merchandise. And I suppose you would have Hutch supporters say again, is this all very convenient timing? Because obviously Pascal Donoghue's seat is free now and there's going to be a by-election. So it's all...
So there'll be a by-election in the new year, and all the indications are that Jerry Hutch intends to stand. And if you're to look at it, he's certainly going to garner a lot of votes now. As I did a podcast with Fionnán Sheahan, it's going to be hard because it's one single first past the post system on a by-election. Okay. It's much more difficult to beat the establishment. But it's a contradiction. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, that back here. He's
It's
some
just
people,
that some people.
Yeah, it's a funny kind of thing, though, isn't it? And you even look at it like, we always say that saying about, like a honor among thieves and stuff like that a criminal is a criminal. But when you look at the people we're writing about this week, just the reckless criminals like those who threw a firebomb into a house that killed 2 people, and then you have people sort of revering Jerry Hutch, even though he has been accused of really serious crimes. There's almost like sometimes it's a different type of, I suppose.
Yeah,
I don't want to say standard, but it's just a different.
Well, there's a contradiction,
There's a contradiction,
and I mean, I think the Irish Times had a good piece about why, despite CAB investigations, Spanish investigations, etc., that Jerry Hutch still retains that support. It was an interesting piece.
He does, but I suppose what I was trying to say is, I suppose that you can understand why people, even though he's been accused of horrible crime, of big crimes, and people, there's obviously people who wouldn't like to see him elected. There's other people who say, well, he has supported his community and, he just tried to help things. And then you have this, this new generation where they cause reckless chaos. So,
well, they do. And I suppose there's just, that is the contradiction, and it's not clear. Now, I suppose when you're talking about that horrible firebombing, and it's a kind of a very violent, but also quite, localized and small scale, even though the costs are absolutely massive, type of criminality. But we had the other scale as well coming before the Special Criminal Court this week, where we had was actually technically described as a narco boat, which was really interesting because that was the term that they used in court. It was a hugely interesting case. Now, I'm not going to ask you to describe. Do you want to read out the names?
No, I asked you earlier, were you going to read the names, and you said no.
No, I'm not. Well, I mean,
no. So look, I think I've tried to with Nicola before.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, give us the basics of the case, because there's a total
70 years. So basically, these men, they have been jailed for a total of 70 years for conspiracy to import drugs into Ireland. So I guess to give a very brief synopsis, this happened in now, and actually Jerry's still on my page, so I have to actually do this from memory. So this was in between February and March 2024. Basically what happened was Gardaí stopped a couple of vehicles near Leaf Village, which is in West Cork near Skibbereen, and they stopped a camper van, a car, and there was a rib. So they searched that.
Which is a rigid inflatable
boat. Yeah. And then they searched that. And then obviously, I think locals had raised suspicions as well. So basically went to a nearby pier, and they were able to, there was another rib, and they'd been, in communication with each other. So basically what happened was there was, these men had been on this rib for a certain amount of time, and they were trying to coordinate to meet up with a ship. The ship had basically there was a rendezvous point, and obviously the men didn't make that. And then a short time later, I think it was nearly 50 million euro worth of cocaine washed up on the coast of Denmark, and it's been linked to this. But basically, because there was no drugs found with the men, they've been jailed for conspiracy to import.
Yeah, so it's a very interesting case, right? Because it shows two things. The first is that, I mean, how this really top level cocaine trafficking is occurring.
Yeah.
Because there was a boat traveling from, I think it was from Ecuador to Russia, a commercial vessel. It was called the Panama Flagged Cool Explorer. So it's a major container ship or whatever. It's traveling across the ocean, and these guys had come to Ireland. They'd got this rigid inflatable boat. It was described as a narco boat because they'd sort of blackened it out, and they'd arranged to rendezvous off the coast to collect this cocaine. So this other vessel would probably slow down, but it'll be like it's being viewed by radar the whole time.
Yeah.
So
they were following it, like they were tracking it.
Exactly, but all those boats crossing the oceans are under constant radar surveillance anyway. It's just automatic. So that's why those ships, they have to give a route and all of these things. And if there's any variation, that sparks alerts. So they sent out this rigid inflatable boat, but obviously the Irish Sea there was a weather warning in place. There was rough conditions, and obviously something went wrong.
Yeah.
And they didn't collect the cocaine. There was a GPS advice showing the boat had been used to journey it was 989 kilometres by sea.
Yeah.
So it was in an effort to interdict this commercial vessel. Now, if you can imagine, these ships are in the middle of the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
The weather is bad. It's probably at night, and they're trying to lower packages in. So it's a very complex procedure. They come back, and obviously in the meantime, they're arrested. Now, what's unusual about this case is they never seized the cocaine, the guards.
No.
So
But was it even in Irish waters? So that's the.
Well, I mean, they a total of 800. This is what it says in court. A total of 840 kilograms of cocaine, valued at over 58 million, was found washed up on a beach near Jutland in Denmark on the 17th of March, after the Cool Explorer passed the coastline. So, but I suppose this is before the Special Criminal Court.
Yeah.
There would have been a time back in the day when, if you're not caught red-handed with the drugs, you're going to walk free.
Yeah.
So while all of these GPS tracking devices, encrypted phones, all this technology makes drug trafficking easier and possible, it also means that these guys are convicted solely on the basis of communications.
Yeah.
The sentences are long, but they're not equivalent to some of them.
Yeah. It's conspiracy to import, I suppose, because they didn't have the drugs in their hands, and they got 11 years each, which I suppose if they were caught with the cocaine, they'd be facing much more. Yeah.
But an interesting case, it shows that the Irish coast is vulnerable. As while there was, I think, some interaction with Irish criminals on this island.
Yeah.
This cocaine is not primarily, I think, destined for Ireland. There was belief that it'd be broken up and shipped off to the UK or other places.
Yeah.
And obviously that vessel continued to presumably continued to go on. I don't know how the cocaine ended up overboard. Possibly somebody threw it off rather than get caught.
Sounds like it.
Knows?
They continued, but it's tough work though, isn't it? Because the 5 of the men spent 48 hours in the high seas on this rib, which wouldn't be comfortable.
It would not be comfortable.
And now they're in jail. You know? So
is it all worth it?
I don't know.
Speaking about, is it all worth it? Right? What about? We've had a number of cases this week.
Yeah.
Where people have ended up before the courts.
Yeah.
Women, primarily.
Yes.
I suppose it's fair to say are not at the centre of the criminal activity.
Yeah.
But they've ended up in trouble for a bit of handbags and a bit of old jewellery, is it?
Or their drug dealing husbands getting them in trouble.
Well, there you go. Girl power. But tell us about Kathleen Riley is one of them, and then I'll tell you about another one that's the same one.
Yeah. So this woman, Kathleen Riley, her and 4 other family members were basically up in jail for having undeclared earnings. So it kind of came to light during this that she basically had money laundering and having this undeclared earnings. So basically she had funneled €100,000, which they suspected was crime earnings because she was unemployed. So she funneled this through her accounts, and then they obviously found as well that she had a €22,000 worth of luxury items. So
include what?
Includes basically Christian Louboutin, Louis Vuitton, Balenciaga, Canada Goose dresses, coats, purses, runners and high heels.
You did a better job at that now than Eamon Dillon, who can't pronounce Balenciaga and various other luxury items.
Well, I'd be a bit worried if Eamon could. I spend far too much time browsing Arnott's and Brian Thomas for stuff I can't afford, unfortunately.
Okay.
So basically, so it was kind of, she basically, the headline sentence was 4 years for these offences. She was seen as kind of on the outer edge of this. Yeah. And it was kind of pleaded in court that she hadn't been in trouble before, that she was had a family and all this kind of thing. And the judge took a little bit of sympathy of her, but then said, there's no way that you didn't know about this €100,000 going through your account, that it was, coming from crime. You'd know other means of having this, and also luxury goods obviously had presumably come from crime money as well. So she got a year sentence. Her husband, William, he had been jailed basically for him and his, I think it was his brother and his father. They were also part of this scheme, but they also were done for cocaine offences, which the women weren't.
Yeah.
So I suppose, it was it's kind of one of those ones where I don't know if this is going to sound really controversial, but sometimes you think to female offenders, do they, like, you know, is there mitigating circumstances come into effect for them? Was she on the periphery? You know, sometimes you think
I suppose there's living off the earnings of these things, and then there's being centrally involved, and But, you know, is it worth it? I suppose you have to say, because you could go down and when you're buying your Gerry Hutch wrapping paper, you could get an Louis Vuitton bag for about a tenner, could you not, down there? One of the stalls.
Yeah, but people know. People know,
yeah.
I don't know, yeah.
Well, there was another woman up this week. Her name is Margarita Mon, and she was also done for the same thing. She had 10,000 euros worth of designer goods, including Gucci jewellery, Ted Baker sunglasses and Louis Vuitton bags. And she also had 192,000 euros passed through her account over a 6 or 7 year period. And again, there was lodgements of 36,000 to one of an AIB account and 56,000 to on post. And again, she's brought before the courts. Now, there's nobody is suggesting that she was centrally involved in the criminal plot, but there was this thing called, her associates were involved in a thing called jugging, where they basically follow people who withdraw, and as they withdraw a lot of money from an ATM, they follow them, and then there's a robbery. But again, she is done, and again, I think
she jailed?
No, she was not jailed. She was given concurrent 18-month sentences on each count, which she suspended in full on condition that she keep the peace and be of good behaviour for 3 years. Okay. But you know, again, these people probably at one stage in our past, they wouldn't necessarily have been brought before the courts, the women, for possessing this sort of stuff. But it has become more and more prevalent. And, you know, you have to wonder, I suppose. Well, I'll tell you some of the other items that were also seized. A Pandora bracelet, 2 Louis Vuitton bags, a Gucci diamond hair clip, Christian Louboutin lady shoes, and a Dolce & Gabbana gold watch. And a gold diamond ring, gold loop earrings, a Ted Baker ladies jacket, and a box of Swarovski jewellery.
Yeah.
But you see, these are the proceeds of all of that criminal activity. And it's something that the guards, I think, have become more conscious of, that these are the items that the ways in which people flaunt their criminal activity.
Yeah, because they need somewhere to put the money. They can't go into a Bank of Ireland with it. Like, so sometimes you do think maybe it is a good thing that, like, you know, maybe these women are, you know, they're obviously, you know, they're not intentionally involved in crime, maybe, and maybe they have other personal circumstances going on. But at the same time, you know, you do have to start somewhere, and you know, they are reckless to it if they're involved in.
Well, they're also a cog of the machine. I mean, if they're bringing the money through their accounts, you know, they know that it's criminality, and that they plead guilty to these offences because they accept that there is no other valid excuse. Nobody just comes up with thousands of euros and puts it through your account.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's a range of different criminal crimes that we've covered today.
Very range, yeah. I don't know what would I do for a Chanel handbag now.
But go down and get one to a Channel handbag down there for 20 quid. You might as well. It might be better, Eimear, than engaging in a life.
Yeah, no, I do. I agree with that.
You wouldn't be made for it.
No, would you know? Do you not think so?
No, I don't think so. No.
Why not?
You're not good at lying or deceit. You can't even hide your annoyance, let alone a mastermind.
Yeah, but I'll just say Niall made me do, and I'm a poor innocent woman. You know, it seems to work.
It doesn't. It's just you think it sounds good, but it doesn't.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, Eimear, thanks very much.
We never talked about the story I wanted to talk about.
Okay, what is it? I hope it's a very highbrow one now, that you're not going to let yourself down.
Conor McGregor's crime against fashion.
There you go.
I haven't actually.
There you go now. I thought it was something to do with the poor children or the economic circumstances behind driving criminality. No, but it's what Conor McGregor was wearing.
Poor children on Crime World, they've had hard enough. No, I suppose, no, I haven't. To be fair, I can't judge him because we haven't seen what he wore, but his wedding happened today.
Yeah.
Eugene Masterson's over there in Rome and hasn't got himself in too much trouble yet, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
So,
And there has been a bit of controversy because people have been tweeting, and of course people tweet whatever, so it doesn't really matter that, he's obviously getting married in the Vatican.
Yeah.
There's various people having opinions on that because of all of the controversies that McGregor has been involved in.
Yeah.
But, he ploughs on.
He does, yeah. He just seems to kind of let it all wash off him. But yeah, obviously it's only a couple of weeks since his final attempt to appeal the Nikita Hand finding. Obviously she was awarded $250,000 in that civil rape case, and the Supreme Court threw it out. So then this week he's not letting it affect him. He was partying with Tyson Fury, not Tyson Fury. He was partying with
Mike
Tyson afterwards, and now this week he's over in Rome getting married. So yeah, we're over there. Eugene's over there, and it all happened on Friday morning. He didn't see Dee and Conor going in now, but we got lots of photos of the church. It was a small church within the Vatican grounds. There's lots of floral decorations. An Irish florist did apparently, and there was a lot. We saw the wedding party. We saw Dee arrive in the car. She didn't want to get out of the car until the locals there had moved. So we didn't get to see her dress at the moment anyway. But yeah, it seems to be there's a couple of hundred guests flew over this week and were bussed to the venue for the wedding. Eugene was told that they were waiting an hour for the couple to arrive, and then Conor had kind of said he was going to get married in a church because he was very religious, but apparently Eugene was told that they requested a short ceremony, so they didn't want the longer mass.
Yeah, of course McGregor has come out very publicly talking about his fate and how he's describing himself as an Irish Catholic and how important that is to him. So but there's no shortage of money anyway. Obviously, bringing over 100 people to Rome for a wedding.
Yeah, no, not at all. But I just thought it was funny because he was going to that effort because it's a lot. It's a 2-year waiting list apparently to get into that church.
Yeah.
And it's a big money thing. But then he apparently requested a small religious ceremony. But there you go. But so there's obviously going to be a massive after party as well. But they're man and wife now, so they've been together since 2008, I think, and 5-year engagement. And a lot of people speculated, when the wedding would happen. And obviously, she stood by him. He's had not just the Nikita Hand, but there's been lots of other controversies surrounding Conor McGregor, and Dee has stood by him the whole time. They have 4 kids together. So we'll see what comes out of Rome over the weekend, I suppose.
We absolutely will, and we'll bring more of it to our readers and listeners next week.
Absolutely.